Hi, welcome back to the Weekly Why. This week we have Parsha Shoftim. This week's Parsha has one of the most famous verses, probably in all the Torah, perhaps all the Bible. One of the most famous verses. It says, "Justice, justice you shall pursue." That's Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 20. It says, "Justice, justice you shall pursue." So there's there's an enormous amount of discussion as to why the word justice is repeated twice. Ultimately, I think one of the perhaps greatest reasons for this is that ultimately it's teaching us the lesson that when it says tzedek, justice, twice, what it's telling us is that we can't sacrifice justice in the pursuit of justice. What that means is that ultimately the ends do not necessarily justify the means. Right? So what that means, for example, some people, they set for themselves very noble goals, but in the pursuit of those goals, they do things that aren't necessarily so honorable. For example, let's say, we really want to help society out, we want to create a better society, but in so doing, we jail people who disagree with us, and we murder people in order to basically keep this perfect society going. And obviously we talk about the Nazis or the communists. I mean, these are people who both had their ideas of what a perfect society would look like. They really, really wanted to help people. However, in their pursuit of that, what they did was they said, okay, I want to pursue justice. I want to create a perfect world. But in so doing, they said, okay, well, I'm going to cut corners in doing that. And in other words, the ends justify the means. So in other words, I want to create a perfect society then. So right now, if people disagree with me, I can throw them in jail, and I can persecute them, and I can kill them, etc. So essentially what the Torah is telling us here is that the ends, of course, do not justify the means. So a good example, is that when God, back in the book of Exodus, when God approached Moses at the burning bush and told him to, return to Egypt and to the Pharaoh and lead the Jewish people to the promised land, Moses was quite hesitant. One of the reasons for his refusal was ultimately that his older brother Aaron had been acting as a spiritual leader for the Jewish people. And so Moses was a little bit concerned. He said, he didn't want to suddenly leave Egypt and then suddenly come back basically as the leader of the Jewish people. He thought it would be a little offensive to Aaron. And so to him he said, yes, I know the ends, in other words, me being the leader of the Jewish people and bringing them to Israel, etc., is fantastic, but the means would be basically me making my brother feel terrible. Okay? So ultimately, once again, the lesson here is that in terms of when it says justice, justice you shall pursue, the whole idea is that we can't be Robin Hood. We can't simply steal from the rich to give to the poor, because yes, he's given to the poor, but he's still stealing from somebody else. The whole idea of us, for example, in terms of the practical take-home, is that yes, if we're going to go to synagogue for minyan, fantastic, but it doesn't mean we can cut people off to get there in time, right? If we're buying kosher food, that's great, we get merit for that, but it doesn't mean you can, cut in line or be rude to the cashier, etc. So of course the whole idea is the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. The letter of the law remains, and yet at the same time the spirit of the law is the question is how that's supposed to develop us, how it's supposed to make us better people. So that's a take-home message for us, is that when we're in the process of doing mitzvot, that ultimately we should be thinking about not only the letter of the law, but ultimately, is this really, am I going about this the right way, or am I making shortcuts just to be the most religious guy in the room? So that's it for Parsha Shoftim. Best wishes, Shabbat Shalom, God bless.